1MDB has sparked embezzlement and money laundering investigations across
one of the
at least
biggest
10
corruption
countries.
scandals the world has ever seen.
What may be the biggest financial scam in history.
A number of corrupt 1MDB officials treated this public trust as a personal bank account.
Follow us as we bring you into the courtroom where the biggest financial scandal in Malaysian history is being heard. By the Malaysian Insight, this is the Najib Razak 1MDB trial, and I'm Patrick Teo. Today's proceedings was a quick 2-hour session as Najib's lawyer Shafee Abdullah had other matters to attend to. As Shafee delved right into his cross-examination of the prosecution's 9th witness, Shahrol Halmi, we find out that some of the $700 million channeled into Good Star ended up in Tarek Obaid's account. Who is Tarek Obaid, you ask? We'll pause here for a second to share what we know about him. Together with Prince Turki Abdullah, Tarek Obaid co-founded an oil and gas company called Petro-Saudi International Limited. Prince Turki is also the son of the late Saudi king, Abdullah, and Tarek was reported to be very close to the prince. Sometime later, a shell company was formed in the Cayman Islands using a similar name, Petro-Saudi Holdings Cayman Limited. Tarek was accused of using this shell company to run scams and steal money. King Abdullah died in 2015, the same year 1MDB hit the headlines. Tarek and Prince Turki reportedly found themselves caught up in the Saudi royal household struggle with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Tarek has allegedly fled to Switzerland and is believed to be residing there. Okay, back to the trial. If you remember, we heard yesterday how when the $1 billion meant for the joint venture was moved out of 1MDB, it was split 2 ways. $300 million went to Petro-Saudi, while $700 million went to Good Star. Today, Shafee showed Shahrol bank statements from an account in RBS Counts. The account belonged to Good Star, which is Joe Low's company. The statement showed that as of June 12, 2009, the account was empty, as in it had zero balance. Then it was credited with $700 million on September 30th, 2009. 5 days later, on October 5th, $85 million was transferred out of Good Star into an account belonging to Tarek Obaid. Under a comment section in the statement, it was written, "Expected inflow for new client. Commissions received by client for JV deal." What sort of commission can one make out of a JV deal? Shafee asked the witness. Did you know that Tarek received this money from Good Star? No, Shahrol said. He didn't know. Shafee brought up more bank statements which showed that the $85 million was used to make other payments. Petro-Saudi's Business Affairs Director Patrick Mahoney received $33 million, while £157,000 was paid to a law firm called White & Case. White & Case were the solicitors for the 1MDB Petro-Saudi joint venture agreement. Shahrol agreed that this was strange because payment for the law firm should have come from Petro-Saudi and not Tarek himself. The witness also agreed with Shafee that perhaps Tarek paid the law firm out of his own pocket because he had a personal interest. Shahrol told the court that in order to avoid suspicion, Tarek wrote to 1MDB saying that Petro-Saudi received the full $1 billion. This is why we never suspected that the $700 million went to Joe Low, the witness said. Of course, we now know that Tarek had lied because that amount never went to Petro-Saudi. What about the remaining $300 million? Did you check if it really went to Petro-Saudi like it was supposed to? Shafee inquired. No, he did not, Shahrol said, because Casey Tang said he had done so. Shahrol said that 1MDB's board of directors eventually tried to look into the account for the joint venture to see if the money was there, but they were stonewalled by Tarek and Patrick. We sent lots of emails but only received excuses in reply and not much information, the witness said. In the end, Shahrol tried to go through Joe Low to get to the accounts, and this resulted in the Murabaha financing scheme. In March 2010, after trying in vain to get to the joint venture accounts, 1MDB decided to enter a Murabaha financing scheme, which meant that its $1 billion stake in the JV would be converted into Murabaha notes. But here's the catch. In entering the scheme, 1MDB would also have to provide a $1.5 billion loan to PetroSaudi. Shahrol said that the scheme came about after a discussion between Joe Low, Tarek, Patrick and Nick Faisal Arif Kamil, who was then 1MDB's chief investment officer. "Why didn't Joe discuss this with you as CEO?" Shafee asked. "Because this area involved investments," Shahrol answered, "which is why we brought Nick Faisal in as CIO to look into this." Shahrol admitted that in hindsight, it did not make sense for 1MDB to loan PetroSaudi an additional $1.5 billion on top of the $1 billion it had already coughed up for the joint venture. He said that there were a lot of odd things he didn't think to question at the time because he believed that this intergovernment deal was important for the country. "I'm putting it to you that this was a completely nonsensical scheme to sham off 1MDB. It was a harebrained scheme," Shafee exclaimed. Shahrol nodded in agreement. And with that, court was adjourned and will resume tomorrow. This podcast was brought to you by the Malaysian Insight. The team behind the Najib Razak 1MDB podcast are Revati Supramaniam, Yap Pek Kwan and Yvonne Lim. Timothy Acharyam provided additional reporting. And I'm Patrick Teo.